Namaste. Today we'll continue readings on Narayani, Sri Lakshmi Devi, and I'm going to read from the book that I'm currently working on called Sita's Yoga, the Yoga of Awakening. And I'm going to read one of the chapters called the Yoga of Gratitude. As I mentioned yesterday, this story is told through the voice of a village woman named Devani. And her village is undergoing a difficult period where a strong man has sort of taken over and creating a lot of divisions in the village, which is at this point in the story about to reach its peak. I'll begin reading. A few weeks before that terrible incident which took place in the village, I met Soma in the forest. As you may remember, Soma is Mata's attendant, Sita's attendant, and Sita we call Mata. I had gone to gather medicinal plants, and Mata had sent her to the forest for the same purpose. However, I came to see that there was another purpose to our meeting. I was full of complaints and trepidation that day, and when I met Soma and she asked me to sit with her, I couldn't help but unload all the negative feelings that had come over me. The tension in the village was reaching a crisis point, affecting everyone, and especially my husband, who harbored a lot of ill feelings toward the key village leaders. I had come to the forest in part to escape the heavy atmosphere, but that negativity had followed me, overtaking my usual composed state of mind. Soma listened quietly to all my complaints, and then smiling, she told me this story. Some years ago, a villager named Kalam came to the hermitage near where we live to see the sage, she began. The sage wasn't there, but his students sent him to Mata. Now this Kalam didn't know she is the Maharani. He thought she was just some woman who lived near the hermitage, and he came with a bit of an attitude. Mata never turns anyone away, so she invited him to join us for the afternoon meal. He was a rather cranky man, and all the while, as we were cooking, he began to complain about one thing or another in his life: his health, his wife and children, the difficulty in working the soil and getting along with the other farmers. He seemed to find fault with everyone and everything. I was curious as to how Mata would deal with him. She told me to take care of the cooking and went to sit with him, listening patiently to all he had to say. When I served him the meal, he complained about that too, saying it was too spicy and was burning his mouth. I winced when he said that, because Mata herself always prepared all the spices. But Mata's response was simply, "We will do better next time." I hoped that there wouldn't be a next time, because he was quite a negative sort, and I was eager to be rid of him. But after the meal, when he made a move to depart, Mata asked him to accompany us, as we would take the remaining food to a man we knew who lived nearby. I was sure he would decline, but for some reason he acquiesced, although rather reluctantly. It was only when we arrived at Bidari's hut that I understood Mata's intention. The man we were visiting was well known to us, as we often brought him food. He was quite elderly, lived in a broken-down hut, but was nearly blind and lived alone, as his wife had died some years earlier, and his children had gone off to live in town. But despite his hardships, and there were many, he was one of the most cheerful people you would ever meet, filled with gratitude for every little thing. As soon as we arrived, he told Mata how grateful he was for her visit and the food, adding, "How fortunate I am that you, Mata, give such care to a poor soul like me." "You, a poor soul," Mata replied with a chuckle. "The wealth of the world lies at your fingertip, and yet you choose none of it. You choose only the wealth of your heart, which is overflowing." Mata had once asked him if he wanted her to heal his eyes and restore his sight, but he replied that he saw her, and that was all he needed to see. Mata explained to me that he had inner sight, and she said that all his conditions could change if he wanted it to be so. But he has no desire to change anything about his life, she told me. He's happy with whatever comes, because he has awakened to his inner self, where there is only perfection. That day, Mata herself laid out the food and served him. Again he expressed his gratitude. Kalam sat there silently observing the scene, with a sour expression on his face. At one point he whispered to me, "That man is blind and feeble, and lives in a hut that is barely standing. He has nothing to be grateful for." Overhearing the comment, the man turned to him and replied in a joyful voice, with eyes that sparkled, "I am alive, and feel the love of the universe throbbing in my heart. What more is there to ask for? I have gratitude beyond what words can express." After some time we left Badari and parted ways with Kalam. I thought we were done with him, but he came to see us a few weeks later. Again Mata sat with him while he complained about one thing or another, and again I cooked the afternoon meal and served him. And once again he complained about the food, saying this time that it had no flavor, no spice at all. Nothing had changed in our food preparation. The spices were the same, but he had a different perception and managed to find fault. And again Mata simply said, "Next time we will do better." "Are you going to bring food to that man in the broken-down hut?" he asked. Mata nodded, and he said he would accompany us. After we arrived, Mata served the food to Badari, and after he had again expressed his gratitude, Kalam asked him a question. "The food has no taste to it, so why are you grateful?" Smiling, Badari replied, "Mata's food is always perfect. Whether it has taste or not, I cannot say, because through this food she feeds me love, and it is her love that keeps me alive, and the love of the universe, and for that I am forever grateful." "Fool," Kalam whispered under his breath. Kalam began coming regularly every few weeks, and each time Mata offered him food with the same spices that we always used, and each time he found a different fault with the cooking. For some reason, Mata found him amusing and seemed to enjoy his company, despite his cranky disposition. He continued to complain about the food, and Mata was most patient with him. Finally, one day he showed up, and after Mata fed him, he merely mumbled something as he ate the food without issuing any complaint, and we understood that his attitude was changing. He asked to accompany us as we brought food to Badari, but this time, as we sat speaking with our friend, I saw Kalam studying the hut and all the areas that needed leaking. Before leaving, in a rather gruff tone, he offered to fix Badari's roof, which was leaking. And thus began the transformation. Over the course of months, Kalam went many times to Badari's hut to repair one thing or another, and he ended up visiting him often without us. One day, when we visited our friend, Badari said to Mata, "I am most grateful that you brought Kalam to me, for I recognize him as a son from a previous birth. He now comes quite often to fix one thing or another. Even when nothing needs to be repaired, he finds some reason to visit, and he's become far more attentive than my own children. You know, I don't care about a leaky roof or any such things, but we talk, and I'm grateful for that. He has a difficult life, and he comes to me with all his complaints. I try to help him see the brighter side, and I'm grateful if I can uplift him just a little bit." "You have done more than just a little bit, my friend," Mata replied. "I have seen the transformation in his character, and you are part of that reason. The gratitude that you've always expressed has changed his perception of life." Well, those two became dear friends, continued Soma, and after Badari left his physical form, Kalam came to see us. Mata sat with him for a while, and he didn't utter one complaint, not even the suggestion of a negative thought. Our dear Badari, under Mata's guidance, had taught him the yoga of gratitude, and he became a changed man. Before leaving us that day, Kalam looked at Mata with tears in his eyes and said, "How grateful I am that you came into my life and introduced me to Badari. Knowing that I was able to be of some service to him has changed my life. No one ever listened to me or appreciated my situation the way he did. I will miss him terribly. After Kalam left, Mata explained to me that he owed a debt to Badari from the past, and it was this debt that contributed to his negative outlook on life. Mata knew that Badari would help him pay off that debt and overcome his negative qualities. That had now been accomplished. This is how she teaches us, Devani, quietly, subtly, without one even noticing. She opens your heart. Once she told me that by practicing the yoga of gratitude, the heart opens and love flows, and love is the source of all good things. It enables that deep transformation without which we cannot see things as they truly are. Soma became quiet, and I rested in the silence for several minutes, absorbing the story she just told, feeling Mata's presence as if she was with us. Then Soma continued. Gratitude helps us to see the true nature of things, because everything that comes to us, every condition, no matter how adverse, is for the purpose of awakening and can lead to a positive outcome. It all depends on our attitude. I know this was Mata's attitude even in childhood. I came to Matilla after the drought had ended, but there's a story the servants used to tell. During the drought, when there were difficult times, and often Janak Baba and the family would not eat because others in the kingdom were going without food, Mata once exclaimed how grateful people would be when the drought ends, when the rains come and food is again plentiful. And then she corrected herself, saying, "No, we should be grateful now for even the little bit of food we have. We should be grateful for the advances that will come from this experience and for the ways in which the whole kingdom has come together to support one another." And indeed, advances came, new methods of providing water to the fields. That drought ended up leading to much benefit. Out of adversity comes progress. A certain tension precedes the birth of the new. Mata often says this. And even though it is difficult to have this understanding when the world looks bleak, gratitude helps to awaken the creative energy needed to overcome adversity. Mata has shown me this again and again. During the famine, the servants in Janak Baba's household were once discussing this, and on one occasion Janak Baba, overhearing their discussion, entered the kitchen and told them, "Sita is right. Gratitude is a yogic practice that everyone can perform. Not everyone is suited to meditation, reciting mantra, or engaging in austere spiritual practices, but everyone can express gratitude because everyone has something to be grateful for, no matter how dire the situation. And there is tremendous power in this practice." Soma continued, "I heard all of this as soon as I arrived in Matilla. Later, when Mata and Sri Ram returned from their exile, I heard it again. How often she said how grateful she was that she and Ram could spend so many years traveling through the land as ordinary wanderers, meeting and helping so many people, seeing the diversity of plant and animal life. How grateful she was. And her attitude was the same about her year in Lanka. How many people she was able to help, how she was able to assist Ram from inside Ravana's kingdom, entering his mind and working to shatter the illusions he was creating. She had enormous gratitude for that. And then her retreat here to these forests, she felt such gratitude. And that attitude has turned our lives and this place into a heavenly abode. She was able to do here what she never could have done in the palace. I've heard her laughingly question whether Rishi Bhrigu knew this when he uttered that curse. Did he know all she was able to accomplish through her retreat from palace life, where she could be near the animal and plant life she so loves? Over the years, people have come to Mata with all kinds of ills, and she's helped them develop this attitude of gratitude. Often I have seen illnesses cured just from this alone. So, Devani, in your bleakest moments, remember all the blessings you have received, and there is not a person on earth who has not received such gifts. This is the reason Mata sent me to find you today. You must never let your mind slip into despair, or the weight of that will affect all of those around you. As she spoke those words, I thought of what Mata's life has entailed. Years in the forest that must have brought difficulties, and then the year in Lanka. Did she endure all of that for us, to show us the way to counter life's challenges? Mata's life was a teaching itself. Every step that she took paved the way for us to follow. Throughout my time with Soma that day, Mata's presence was palpable. It was as if she were instructing me, lifting the sorrow that had overtaken me, showing me how I could help chase away the shadows that were now lurking in every corner of our village. I had to be part of the solution, not part of the problem. For this teaching, I was most grateful. I returned to the village that evening wondering what would unfold. What would the crisis now facing us yield? Would we, the villagers, be able to use Mata's teachings to transform a negative situation into one that brought benefit? Would we be able to find light in the darkness? I was to discover in the events of the next few days and weeks that there would be ample opportunity to put into practice what Mata was showing us. I began writing this book, Sita's Yoga, because I found that the teachings she gave then apply to us every bit as much today. Those teachings are eternal teachings appropriate for every era, for every person. Tomorrow we'll continue Navaratri readings with reflections and readings on the Devi Saraswati. Jai Ma.